There we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Pulpwood Queen channel. I'm author Tracy Carnes, reminding everybody who hasn't already, please subscribe, because that way you'll always get updates on all the wonderful videos and discussions right here from the Pulpwood Queen herself. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the one, the only, the Pulpwood Queen herself, Kathy L. Murphy. Yay!
Yes, the infamous little small town Kansas girl has now somehow become the leader of the largest international Pulpwood Queen and Timber Guy book club reading nation. And this is our 23rd year. Gayle Woodson is our author tonight. She's our International Author of the Month, and we're thrilled that she's here because she has an incredible story. So Gayle, say hello to everybody.
Hi there, glad to be here. Where are all the tiaras?
Well, you know what? I have so many scars from 23 years of wearing prongs. I forgot to put mine on tonight, but I could say the same. You should have one too.
You know, I went and got one, but I can't. Oh, wait. Hang on.
All right.
There you go.
I'll put a jeweled pin on my head. Here we go. Jeweled
So
pin.
my background is not recognizing it as part of me because I've got my virtual background and it's cutting out part of the tiara.
Yes, that Mount Kilimanjaro is not actually in her view from Florida, but I love the fact that she's got that background because it ties in so much to her book, which is an incredible story. You know, when I select books by the ones that are sent to me, I think I got close to 1,500 last year. And I haven't gotten as many this year, but boy, the ones I've gotten have been just outstanding. But it's, you know, I have to hone those down to just 12 international books of the month, 12 books of the month, and then I pick 2 bonus books a month so I can fit as many authors in as possible. Because, you know, this is the one place where authors can send me books that I really try to help boost first-time unknown authors or authors that are yet undiscovered. And so many people here stateside only read books from their own little part of the world. And I truly believe the more we read, the more we understand, the more empathy we have for other people's cultures of the world. So you have lived a lot of places, Gayle. First, as we begin, I want you to introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about how you got from where you came from and to becoming an author. Just tell us your story in your own words.
Okay. Well, I was born in Texas. I was born in Galveston. My father was in medical school. And when I was a little girl, people would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I was born in 1950. So when I said, "Oh, I want to be a doctor," they would kind of giggle, or they'd say, "You mean you want to be a nurse?" And I said, "Well," so I went to college to get my MRS degree because ladies didn't work. And I thought, well, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to be a journalist because that's something I could do at home as a wife, you know. And then in my sophomore year, my sociology class, my sociology professor sent us out to do some project where we interviewed people. And one of the people I interviewed was a lady pediatrician. And I realized, whoa, I could be a doctor. And then I thought, well, and as far as being a writer, I really didn't have too much to write about. I thought I haven't lived much of a life. So I went on to medical school. I became a surgeon. I did my residency at Johns Hopkins, one of the first women to be in the surgery department. Wow. And I specialize in throat surgery. And I have been a guest lecturer on every continent, I guess 30 different countries. I've done research, and I was the chairman of a department, like the second woman to be chairman of the ENT department. And also did outreach to different parts of the world, South America, Middle East, and my favorite place was Africa. So the year I retired, I went back to Africa and stayed there for 2 months, and that's when I wrote the book, said, okay, I'm retired from medicine now. I'm going to be a writer.
And you went to Tanzania, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, and I had been going to Tanzania for a number of years. My husband and I volunteered at a medical school there. So we would go there once or twice a year and stay for, 3 weeks or so. And when we went there, there were only 5 ear, nose, and throat surgeons in the whole country, and there's 50 million people. And the 2 ENT doctors at this one hospital, it was a major center, were just about to retire, and they didn't have another one. So we kind of we taught medical students and got them interested, and then helped get a residency program together. So 3 of them became ENT doctors, and they're now the faculty, and they're training like 10 residents a year. So
Oh,
it's,
my goodness.
yeah.
A wonderful thing to do.
And it's been great for us. They're like our kids, and we've brought several of them back over to the States to stay with us for a few weeks and see what it's like. If you bring a doctor over from Africa to train in the States, they really don't want to go back, and you can't blame them. It's not just because of the lifestyle. It's if you learn to practice medicine in the United States or in some first world country, and then you go back to Africa, it's scary, because it was scary for us, trying to do the surgery with not the same instruments. And most of the cases were a lot more severe, because it would be someone who they had throat cancer and they've had it for 2 years instead of 2 months, and the tumor's coming out through the skin, and just a lot harder to deal with. But the people that we taught have gotten more and more skilled, and they need us less and less, which is really nice.
Oh, that's amazing. I remember Jamie Ford, who's also one of our authors, went to Africa with his wife, who's a nurse. And the very first thing that happened when they got to the village, they had to deliver a baby. And they took all their kids. I mean, they got a lot of kids. But I think what a wonderful thing for a family to experience, because I imagine it changes your whole life.
Oh
Because
yeah, oh yeah.
the things that we look at here in the United States that we take for granted that's why I really want to travel, is because we get complacent about the place where we live, and we think, oh, woe is me, I had an ice storm. Well, I got a roof over my head and fresh water and all the basic needs. So what was the craziest thing that happened to you over there, Gail?
Oh, well, this was not to do with the hospital. This was, we went on this safari, and we would go pretty much the bargain rate things. And so the guy that was our driver, I think, was probably 17, and he had this old Toyota Land Cruiser that was pretty old. He had painted it and put new covers on the seats and everything, so it looked kind of nice, but it was kind of so. But we had this wonderful safari, and we went down into this crater. There's this Ngorongoro crater is where this volcano exploded. So you go up fairly high a mountain and then down into this crater, and it's the biggest concentration of wildlife anywhere. And it was incredible seeing the animals and stuff. But the thing that was crazy was at the end, we were about to take the winding road back up, and it's all this switchback kind of coming up and down the hill. And in the parking lot, there was kind of this van, and the driver was a friend of his, and his van the engine had broken down, and he had been taking this group, and most of the group had gone on, but there was a young woman that was still in there. And so our driver decides that we should help his friend, and he's going to tow this van up the hill with these switchbacks and back and forth. And if it had fallen, we would have gone with him because we were attached. And he had the cable he used, it was this big, wide kind of a braided band, and on the side it said KLM 5,000 kilograms. I mean, it was, they had stolen it from the airport or something, I guess. So he hooked up that between his car and the van, and we start going up, and we're going around the corner. And every time he'd shift into second gear, it would snap and the rope would break and the other car would roll back a little bit.
Oh my gosh,
But-
I'm just petrified thinking about it.
But we finally made it to the top, and it was a memorable trip.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was thinking you were going to tell me that you broke down, there's all these animals and you couldn't get away. What kind of
Well-
animals were down there?
Well, yeah, anything, all these things you can think of, lions, zebras, rhinoceros, cheetahs, incredible numbers of birds, elephants. The leopards are really hard to find. They're kind of very rare. But we did, one of the scenes in the book is something that did happen to us that is okay to, spoiler alert, to talk a little. I'll tell what happened.
Tell a little bit about it.
A little bit. Well, anyway, we got in a place where our car was stalled,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of lions around. And I mean, there were always a lot of lions around, and sometimes they'll come up and you see them put their feet up on somebody's car, or they're in the road and you can't go around them. But in this case, we were afraid if we got out of the car that, they might think differently of us. So eventually someone jumped the car and they jumped the battery, and we were able to go on. But one time, we've been on several safaris. We drove up next to a pride of lions, and they had killed a Cape buffalo. And the only ones that were still eating were the young males, who were kind of the last at the table. And the others they were lying on their backs with their big bellies, and you could drive just right up next to them. You could probably reach out and pat the tummy if you wanted to. They were, it was incredible.
At least they were.
Wow.
That's absolutely incredible. And how long were you were there the longest, like 3 months or?
No, I guess 2 months was the longest I was
2
there. And we usually stay maybe 3 or 4 weeks when we go there. The last time we went was December 2020, right before the pandemic. We were there for the month of December, and we had celebrated Christmas there, which was really interesting.
Oh, and what do you
Um,
do to celebrate for Christmas?
Oh, well, it was a British protectorate, and then it was a German colony before that. And the country is probably half Christian. And the Muslims that are there celebrate Christmas too. So everybody celebrates Christmas, and they take a lot more time off than we do. They had a celebration at the church. They said, oh, this church service is at like 10 a.m. or something. And we got there at 10 a.m. There's almost nobody there. Some people were playing the organ or singing and practicing. And I thought, well, where is everybody? And then all of a sudden we heard that all the hospital staff and the people that worked there had gathered in another place, and they were having a parade coming to the church, and they were playing trumpets and singing and dancing. And the music during the service was great. There were like 4 different choirs, and our housekeeper was in one of the choirs, and she was all dressed up and dancing and singing. And they had a really thin Father Christmas. He looked almost like the Grinch, but he had a bag of candy, and he walked around and he would throw candy at everybody. He get hit with a piece of candy.
What an experience.
Wow.
And and I know that this book is based upon your experiences. Have you ever thought about writing a memoir of these stories?
I started out thinking about that, and then I just wanted you feel like you can say more in fiction than you can in a
Right.
memoir, because you don't want to maybe you don't want to reveal certain things about some person, or maybe you'd like to write what you wish you would have said instead of what you actually, and you don't want to write a memoir and make yourself look like you aren't. And because the heroine in this book is a young woman, and it's sort of like, what would I do what could I have done if I had gone there when I was 30 instead of going there when I was, 50 something when I went there. So there was that. But I've thought about that. The memoir I would really like to write is my second year in medical school. I went to Japan to be an exchange student for a while. And so I was in Japan for 6 weeks, and then I came back home going the other way around the world. So that was, and it was in a time where there were, you didn't have credit cards, you didn't have cell phones. I had American Express checks, and
Oh,
it was,
um,
yeah, and it was, there are a lot of things weird things that happened on that trip. So someday I'm going to write a memoir about that.
I would love to read these stories. I think I've read every book out there on Africa. And I was a kid that fell in love with Tarzan. And, I look at them now and they're so politically incorrect and, but I just saw Tarzan as this mythical like hero. I just wanted to swing through. I tried to swing out my treehouse. It was not pretty. And my dog, I, had to pretend it was either Cheetah or, the characters. But my sisters and I used to play that. But then I had a friend that went there with Jane Goodall, the organization out of
Oh, yeah.
college. He was a zoologist. And the stories he told me made me, and everybody I knew came back with lots of parasites. And there's just
Oh.
something. And I was just like, yikes. And if there is a bug within, I have a friend from church who's an entomologist. If there's a bug within 1,000 yards from me, it will find and bite me. So I thought, I don't know what would happen to me if I got, and then I've just heard this latest story about one of my friends who went to India that got attacked by bed bugs. And she ended up being hospitalized. It was so bad. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, they'll find me if there's a bed bug in India. So I may have to pack my own sheet in my backpack. I don't know. But
well, having your own sheets won't help with the bed bugs because they're inside the mattress and they come out when you're asleep,
Oh gosh,
Oh.
okay, you're freaking me out now, Gail. But I just can't get them to heal is the problem. And so, she said she's given me all this list of medications you can get before you go over there. So, was there anything like that happen to you when you went to Africa? Did you have any problems with the water or the foods or?
Everybody gets what you call the tourista or something like that at least once when you're there.
Yeah.
But nothing really bad. We have a friend that came, a speech pathologist we took over once, and we always take Malarone to prevent the malaria. And even though the place we go to is a fairly high elevation, and she decided to take something cheaper, and she got malaria and was quite sick for a while, but she's okay now. So that was the worst thing that happened to somebody with that. But so yeah, we've been pretty lucky when we go there.
And I can't even imagine now with all the things like COVID, and everything that's going on. But yeah, I remember I took my last cruise in December of 2020, and then we had girlfriend weekend, and then coming out of it, COVID hit, and it changed our world, didn't it?
Oh yeah.
Something.
The strange thing is COVID was not really that bad in Tanzania. I mean, there are other parts of Africa, like South Africa was hit really hard. Tanzania, part of it was there were areas that weren't hit very hard, but the major city had a lot of deaths, but they wouldn't report it because the president was a denier and said, Jesus will spare us. The satellite images showed people there, large mass graves and stuff down there. But the place that we go to, because it's kind of on the slopes of Kilimanjaro, it's not as densely populated, and there are not as many old people because old people are going to die.
Yeah.
So we couldn't really they were very careful not to talk to us too much back and forth because the government would have, didn't want them to even talk about this. But then the president died, and they think it was from COVID.
Oh my God.
And now they have a woman president and things are fine. Things are fine.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. But we're going back in January. Yeah.
Oh, you are fantastic.
Yeah. Into January, we're going to go over there.
Show us some photos and because I have a zillion questions for you. But let's go back to the book first of all. This book, you said you wrote it after you went there. What made you write this story?
Oh, I just love the place so much, and I love the people so much, and I thought I thought there were things that people should know, and it was sort of like if I wrote a non-fiction book, I thought, well, nobody, who's going to sit down and read it? So I thought, well, I just wanted to write something to make people appreciate the place and appreciate the people. Because the one thing I found is people everywhere had the same basic, what they want and what makes them happy. And people can be happy in a shack with their family. So there were, that was kind of the motivating factor. And I thought, well, it's something that I thought it was an interesting place and people would like to hear about it. And as it started out, I was just going to write I thought it was going to be kind of like, what's the story about the veterinarian up in Scotland or something? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was going to be just a series of kind of interesting things that happened, and then kind of the plot happened. And I didn't start out to write a love story, but then it just kind of came in there because okay, you're a young woman, you're far away from home, and your absence doesn't always make the heart grow fonder. And so it just seemed like that was something to be a plot that would carry the story along, because I really wanted to have someone up in the village I've been to. I was training the birth attendants to be community health workers, because I thought that's something they should do there. And there's been some forces against that. My sister, who spent a year in Liberia, had told me that there were community health workers in Liberia. So I just thought, what if somebody did go up there and just stay for a while and train people? And that was kind of where the story started in the middle. And then, okay, how do I get this person here? And then what happens when she's here? And how do I turn it into a story? So that's kind of how the book came out.
It's just really great. And that's the kind of stories I'm looking for, the ones that we haven't heard before. And really, I think a lot of times in fiction, you can get a lot of information out there in a way that's less, it's entertaining. And when you make something entertaining, people learn more from it than just textbooks, because, I love to go to school. I mean, I'm just one of these people that just like to learn. I was the one that used to copy things out of the encyclopedias and dictionaries and collect words. I was a strange kid. But most people want, they want to relax when they read, and they want to read a story that catches their interest. So good for you that you wrote it this way. And I think everybody that reads this is going to look at the world a little bit different. And the ultimate goal for your story was, what would you kind of sum it up in words? What were you trying to get across to people?
I wanted to show, I was highlighting, a lot of it was highlighting women's health issues.
Yeah.
And that women are really kind of a lot of times the key to improving the economy. You think about what can you do to help people in another country. Some people like to go on a medical mission and they'll just go and do a bunch of surgeries and then they come home. Or some people want to send clothing, and actually if you send clothing, it kind of suppresses the local clothing industry. But sort of what can you do to make things better? And it's to help people learn so that they can take care of themselves. We had this, you hear this saying, you can give a man a fish if he's hungry today, or you can, teach him to fish. And sure, you teach him to fish. The other thing is he's got to have a fishing pole if he wants to fish. So that was our kind of thing. We would go and we'd bring equipment, we'd bring supplies, we teach them how to do things, and we teach them how to teach other people. So it was, and that's what Sarah does in this book. She's teaching these women to teach other people, and some of the problems that they're fighting are like, genital mutilation.
Oh, it's just horrific.
And there's another subtle point that I don't know if it came across in here, that yes, the maternal mortality and death rate is pretty bad in this country, in Tanzania. But in our own country, it's the only developed country in the world where the maternal mortality rate's actually going up. And it's because of disparities, and it's also because like small hospitals are closing out in the periphery, and it's farther to get there. And I'm really worried with the types of laws that they have about
Yes.
abortion suppression, because I mean, you have a dead baby in your stomach and you need to get it out because otherwise you're going to die. And if somebody thinks, oh gee, that's an abortion, we can't do it, then I mean, there's just a whole bunch of issues related to that. So I mean, that wasn't even an issue at all when when I wrote the book, but I think the women's health issues they're really important in Tanzania, but they're becoming more important in this country too.
I think we have the right to choice in our own lives. Everybody has the right to. No man is being told that, you have to have a vasectomy, or in fact, I think it's odd that you can get Viagra, through Medicare, and yet women don't have the right to say if they're raped or there's something wrong with the baby, to have a choice. And everything, we just use your common sense, people, common sense, and think about the best. And it's so great to hear from a medical professional explaining that to people. Learn as much as you can about something before you make a statement. That's all
Yeah.
I've got. And the only way you can learn is read and fill your life with other people's stories. So where are you going from this book onward? What's the next step?
Well, I do have a sequel to this book in mind, but I've been advised that I should write something else first before I go to the sequel. So the book I'm working on now is it's set in Texas, West Texas, and it has to do with the opioid epidemic. And the main character is a lady doctor, again, because that's the kind of character I can identify with. And it's this is a woman who grew up in West Texas. She and her husband moved to California. Her husband dies, so she comes back home with her 2 kids to stay at home and practice in the hospital there. And then turns out there's this a lot of opioid deaths, and there's some bad things going on. And yeah, it's in her. It's her family.
That's everywhere. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter where you're from, it's just pretty much in every small town, big city around the world. So good topic, and something I would love to read. Do you have a title for your book yet?
It's called Leaving La Jolla. Because that's where she
Oh.
moved to. And so she leaves La Jolla to come
La Jolla,
back there.
California.
Yes, yes.
I used to live in San Diego, so that's like a really jewel of the Pacific.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
wow.
I lived there too. But La Jolla means the hole. It doesn't mean the jewel.
I thought it meant the jewel of the Pacific.
I know, but there are these caves down there by the La Jolla Cove, and that's some people think there's 2 schools of thought.
Oh boy. Well, I want to hear them. And that's where they have Black's Beach. Isn't that the nude beach too?
Yeah. Now my son, when he was a little boy, went down, because we lived in La Jolla for a while, and his friend's father was what was these? Anyway, he was a scientist, the oceanographer. So he was an oceanographer, and he had to go down and do some examination of beach erosion or something on Black's Beach. So he took the 2 boys with him, and Nick said he saw some guy that was, walking some kind of animal that wasn't a dog, and he was nude and walking some animal on a leash, and that was the strangest thing he saw. But
yeah, it's kind of shocking. And they had lots of shark attacks down there.
yeah.
Maybe it's because of those caves. Who knows? But wow, I can't wait to read it. That'll be great. How long were you in La Jolla?
5 years.
5 years. That's how long I was in San Diego. I lived in La Mesa. So, and went to college out there for a little while. So this is going to be a great book. How far away are you from finishing it?
Oh, I have to get an editor on board right now to do some editing and revising before, and then I got to find somebody to publish it.
Well, That well, hopefully we will get the word out there that you all we want to read this next book. So publishers, if you're listening, give her a call. Do you have a literary agent?
Not right now.
Well, mine is coming to Girlfriend Weekend and is going to be talking about that. So
Ah,
it's really tough these days to get. I think more people are hiring publicists and editors than they are literary agents,
mhm.
and it's just the everything's changing in the publishing world. So I'm looking forward to this next book. Let me open this up to anybody that wants to have a question or a comment. This is the weirdest thing on the way they've just changed Zoom. I can't see anybody, so just speak up if you have a question.
I do.
I have,
Okay,
oh, go
Sarah.
ahead, Sarah.
Oh, thanks. Sorry, Kathy.
No, that's okay.
Just want to thank you so much for couching this story as fiction, because I do think that it's really gripping. I'm only halfway through because I was late getting to it, but I love it. I love the story taking me to Africa and the operation scenes of what she does with these women and men to save them. It's just incredible. And I love seeing that. And also dealing with the issue of the genital mutilation, which is, I've heard a lot about in the past. And I really like that she's tackling that, your character. And, just have scenes that are moving us instead of a constant. Some of the books are just so interior that I feel like I bog down, but with yours, I'm not at all. It just
Oh, good. Thanks.
moving and really looking forward to more. So keep it up.
Yay. Anybody else piping in?
Yeah, Kathy,
I,
yeah.
Hey,
I,
Kathy. Hey, I didn't.
hey,
Here.
hey. So, I am excited to read the book, and I worked for Red Cross, and I was based out of Nairobi for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I know the places you're writing about, and so I commend you on writing about the topics you're writing about, because we found that the women were the key. The men, the male leaders needed the recognition, to put it in a PC way.
Yeah.
But the women were the ones that got them to change their minds. And so I'm looking forward to reading that part. And did you climb Kilimanjaro?
Oh, yeah.
So how many times?
Just once. I think you probably don't need to do it more than once. I
I'm
thought,
sure you don't.
Yeah,
Sure you
no,
don't.
but
I never did
I
that.
know someone who's done it 5 times.
I know
Oh,
somebody who's
yeah.
done it 3, but
And
not
we
5.
did it in the kind of a lower budget thing because we had some people. It was not the Abercrombie and Kent 2-week thing. We did 6 days, 4 up and 2 down.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Well, I'm sure it's an experience of a lifetime, but I just never, I don't know. I love looking at it. Went on safari though.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for the book.
thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or
Well,
questions?
I have a question. So, like this is your first novel, and as far as I can tell, it's done quite well. So congratulations. I mean, you've won some awards and you have like over 100 reviews on Amazon. So I'm just wondering if you had attempted any other fiction before that, like did you publish or try to publish short stories or any other novels, or you just wrote this one and that was it?
I have published a number of short stories, and I have them on my website, links to them on the website. I have tried to write novels many times in the past, and got really busy with my job and not finishing them. And I always thought as soon as I retire, I'll finish. There were two novels I was working on, but instead I started on this new one and kept going with it instead. And I might go back to 1 or 2 of the other novels at some point. When I was living in San Diego, I used to have to go to Washington once or twice a month for some NIH meetings. And I had one of the earliest laptops. It was huge and really heavy, and it had been designed for people in the House of Representatives. And I carry it around. And so I'd go across to Washington and I'd have do my work. And on the way back, I would be writing. And I was about 3/4 through with this novel, and then the computer crashed. So, I mean, it's up here, and it's an interesting story. It's totally different from any of these. And I think I may go back and write it again because it's kind of a medical murder mystery.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, so I think someday I'll finish it because like it is still up here, but you can imagine
Oh,
that
I
kind of
can.
sets you back. And I would certainly back everything up now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that. I've had 2 computers go out this year, and I'm telling you, that is just everything I do is on this laptop. So
Oh.
I email it to myself. That's
Yeah.
what you do. Email it to yourself when you
email it, that's a
wanna
good idea.
really save it, because that way you can always pull it out of, Yahoo or Gmail or wherever
Yeah.
you sent it.
I've got there's a OneDrive from my computer that's up in the
Yeah.
clouds, and then I've got 2 backup things that I back up things on.
Mm.
Good for you. Well, absolutely. These are all good advices to everyone. So, any other comments or questions from any of the audience?
I just wanted to add, I totally forgot that I'm writing a memoir right now. It's the third full book that I've done. I've written a lot of bottom drawer novels. But it's really, really hard. And on my worst days, I think I could write more true if this were a novel. I feel like I'm writing in a more stilted way. This could just be me. But I do think that novels can speak a truth that memoir just can't, because they can be more universal.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Sarah?
Definitely. Oh, yeah, that's definitely why I decided with my Pause novel, which is a Pulpwood novel coming up, that I could go into stories that I would blush or feel embarrassed to tell if I was saying
Exactly.
I was brave enough to do this, or, it's just, then you can reach deeper with that, just that little sense of remove. And I opted to make a lot of it comical too, just because you need to laugh a little bit.
Exactly.
I think that it was easier in fiction to do that. So I agree, even though my husband keeps telling me I have to write a memoir of all my travels. And by the way, I got a lot of parasites when I lived in Central America.
Oh my.
I'm being more careful with my travels these days.
Oh.
With medicine and whatnot.
I just didn't even think that thing happened, but I worked with a girl when I was first working in a bookstore that went on a student trip to Mexico City, stay with a very wealthy family, came home and she was constantly sick. I thought she was having gallbladder. Ends up she had a tapeworm. Oh, I don't even want to go into it, but I was just so grossed out. And she was
Good way
staying
to be
with,
skinny.
huh?
I
Yeah,
said,
well,
good. You can get skinny
years
that
ago,
way.
I don't care.
years ago, one of the ways people would lose weight, and this is
Yes.
more than 100 years ago, they would take a pill that had a little tapeworm egg in it
Oh, no.
to lose weight.
Oh,
My best friend and I, that I've known, she's from my hometown of Camden, Arkansas, and she and I both, when we want to lose weight, it's like, how should we do this? Just deprive ourselves of food or get a tapeworm?
oh, please. No,
So, yeah, but,
You don't want a tapeworm.
No.
I mean, don't go back and look at my Google searches. I mean, we have a pact that, if I die, go clear my Google search.
And don't make yourself hyperthyroid. That was back in the 50s. There were some doctors that were giving people extra thyroid to make them lose weight. And of course, that can make you really sick.
Yes, it can. My mother was hyperthyroid, and she, the last basically 22 years of her life were not easy
Yeah.
because of it.
You know, it's very interesting from a medical perspective, the things we get into at these book club meetings, what we talk about, but you have to laugh, but I could never be in the medical profession because I just have, I don't know why, I have a fear of needles, all kinds of crazy. Used to give blood, but I don't anymore. But anyway, I commend you, Gail. And it sounds like your family has gone into the medical profession, not just you and your dad.
Yeah, my brother, actually, Dr. John Woodson came to Jamestown in 1619, the same year that the first slaves came. And there's been a
Wow.
doctor in every generation since I'm the first lady doctor in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
his-
an incredible story.
And his wife was the first doctor's
That's a
wife.
cool
So
story.
that boat came over and it was bringing women to be wives for some people there. And so John Woodson was the ship surgeon and he brought his wife. And actually the reason he came to Jamestown is that Sarah, my ancestor as well, was a Quaker. And when he married her, his family said, so they decided, let's take this opportunity and go to the New World.
There's a story right
Oh
there.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to write that
Doctors.
story. Uh-huh.
Oh man, you just have a lot of great leads for stories I haven't heard before. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. Now, you're blogging all this week, and I thank you so much for being so timely and getting your blogs in and everything. And I'm looking forward, and share pictures because I want to see where you were.
Okay.
There's so, my authors that share pictures from trips they take, even Mediterranean cruises, I'm always sharing them because I feel like I went on the trip with them. So thank you for everything that you're doing and for making this world a better place through your stories. How wonderful. And is your husband in the medical profession too, or?
Oh yeah, he's a doctor. He's a head and neck cancer surgeon.
Oh my gosh.
So
This is-
everything we've done in Africa, we did together.
Oh, that's
Amazing.
great. Now, do you have any children?
I have 4.
Oh, what? Are they in
But-
the medical profession?
Only one is a physician, and then my daughter was planning to go to medical school, and then she kind of saw how much time it took us, so she got a master's in public health instead, and she's doing research at a medical school in Wisconsin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, I would have loved to had some of them on to talk about your experiences with you. So next time we get you back for that next book, bring them on board. We want to hear all about it. And
Well-
thank you so very much. Anything you would like to end with to leave as a going away message to everyone who would read your book after Kilimanjaro?
Well, I'm really happy that you had me here to talk about this. You feel like when you write a book, you don't realize that these are not real characters after a while. You kind of carry them around inside you and you wonder what they're doing next. And I think, writing a book it's a really hard thing to do.
Yes,
It takes a long time, and it's like rewriting and editing things is harder than just putting it down on the front page. But I encourage people to write a book because I think you learn a lot about yourself when you write the book, and you realize that these characters, that you're putting yourself in that character, and you're realizing, what would I do in that position? And it's a real interesting journey, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to write it, and that and have it published and be able to talk to other people about it.
Well, now that this is being recorded, it's going to go up on YouTube. We'll share it with the world. I put it on every social media I can think of. And I honestly really believe that if people will just subscribe and watch these, their lives will change, because the power of the written word it's amazing. And if you don't write your story, it's a library lost to your family and friends.
Oh, yes.
And nobody can get your story right but you. I mean, I've seen some stories written like, for example, we watched, the new Elvis movie. I've read every book on Elvis. I'm a big Elvis fan. I loved his music. And then I see this movie, and all of a sudden, everything has changed on the way I perceived him, because somebody did some research. And that's why these stories need to come to light. So thank you so much for your wonderful book. I'm looking so forward to your next one, and your next one, and your next one. So keep them coming to me, Gail. And what time of year are you going to back to Africa in January?
Yeah, late January, early February. We're going to be there for about a month.
Well, Girlfriend Weekend is the 13th through the 15th in Florida. We'd love to have you come. We've got, you are up for one of the 12 authors up for International Book of the Year. And on the Sunday night of Girlfriend Weekend now, we do awards. And we award our 2022 authors for Book of the Year, International Book of the Year, Bonus Book of the Year, and there's some other awards like the Doug Marlette. And then our grand finale is introducing our new 2023 authors. So really, when you sign on board for the Pulpwood Queens, it's a 2-year featured venue, because we want to, my job as the Pulpwood Queen is to share your books. I know that this is like you, medical profession. For me, it's sharing authors' stories, because I didn't ask for this. I wanted to be an artist my whole life, and I finally have become an artist. But this is what I feel like I was called to do. So anytime you want to make a post on the official Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys Book Club, post there, and I will approve it. The blog page, the Pulpwood Queen blog page, everybody who's listening, is for our author of the week only. And that's hard to get across to people, because they want to share so much, but share on the group page and not on the blog page. But this is your week, and you can go all the way through Sunday. We want to hear more stories. We want to hear more about you. I can't imagine what it was like you as a little girl. Were you curious? Did you follow your father around? Did you?
Oh, yes. I went with him on house calls. I went to the hospital with him. Yeah, and I was a reader. I would read under the covers at night with a flashlight. And I wrote a book when I was 5 that was, 6 pages long.
You still have it? You still have it, Gail?
I don't have the book. I have a newspaper that I wrote. And it's all bound, and it has a little piece of yarn that is tied
I
together
did
with.
the same thing. I tried
Yeah.
to copy Nancy Drew. I tried to copy Louisa May Alcott. It was terrible. It was just terrible. And then I started the weekly newspaper. I also put on Little Rascal shows. I was a weird kid. So thank you for sharing it. I know we can all relate, all of us being out there authors. Kathy, I got your package today. I'll be sharing it
I'm
tomorrow.
so glad. I'm so glad.
Oh,
Thank you for
my
telling me
God.
you got it, because that's always
Oh.
my concern.
Oh, I got it. And I will be sharing it all tomorrow. I got some other things too. So thank you, everybody who showed up tonight. Anybody else have any last news they want to share with anybody about their book or awards or anything that we may have missed? Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you, Gail. I'll
Thank
get this
you.
downloaded and I'll have it recorded by tomorrow. And I will share it on the blog page so everybody can watch it. You can share it anywhere in the world, and it's out there forever. So thank you so much. It's always about the story, and we thank our authors for joining the conversation. Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
We'll see
Bye-bye.
you next time. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you, Tracy. Bye.